Hi, Courtney Alcoholic. I'm excited to have Hailey with us tonight. I was there in meeting when Hailey first walked in the door at my home group, and she's continued to come back week after week, and has already jumped in and is doing service and is just doing the deal. And so it's been really inspiring and impressive to see her journey so far. So come on up, Hailey.
My name is Hailey and I'm an alcoholic. I have 10 months of sobriety, and it's so funny. I was sitting over there and I was like, I'm about to barf. And I was like, I've done harder things than speak in front of people before, and part of that is getting sober. So, but I appreciate that I'm the suspect, so the bar is very low. You all offer me a lot of grace. But yeah, so just a little bit of background. I grew up in a very Christian and very abusive household. And, alcohol wasn't really a part of my story for a long time, which is kind of funny. I remember my dad offering me beer when I was little, like I could have some sips. And it's funny because I hated the taste of it, but I really liked beer, which is just, a tiny alcoholic in the making. And, alcohol sometimes was in our house when my dad didn't think it was evil. Sometimes it was hidden when he thought it was evil. And so it was just, it was just kind of present at times, but it wasn't really a huge, it wasn't an everyday thing. And, because of the house that I grew up in, fear and loneliness was very, those were just two very close friends of mine. We had to walk on eggshells, and I grew up kind of always trying to figure out how to respond to somebody else just to try to stay safe. So, this is wild. It's wild to me, but I remember in preschool, a little girl asked if I wanted to go play. And in the split second between when she said if I wanted to go to her house to play and when I said no, I was thinking, well, I don't know how I'm supposed to play with you. I don't know how you play. I don't know what your house is like. I don't know how to act around you. And so this feeling of just I'm not sure how I'm supposed to act was so present. And so I just said no. And, that couples really well with loneliness. I've always self-isolated because it's just a lot easier to be by myself than try to show up and expend all the energy of trying to figure out what I was supposed to do to be accepted by somebody else, which I've desperately sought my whole life. And so because I grew up in a very Christian home, I wanted to be a good girl, didn't drink in high school. I chose to go to a very charismatic university in Tulsa, Oklahoma, Oral Roberts University, if anybody's familiar with it. Hailey of today would not make that decision, but at the time it felt kind of like coming home since I went to a public school, and it felt nice to be around fellow Christians. But I signed an honor code, so I didn't drink during the 4 years of college, which, one of the funny parts about, I think, for me, growing up has been some of the things that I used to hate or really resent, I see some benefit in. And so because I grew up so Christian, my alcoholism really wasn't allowed to kind of flourish until later. So I didn't drink in college. I started drinking a little bit outside of college. I had a Christian roommate, and she didn't really drink, and I was very aware that she knew how many bottles were missing. And so of my own, I was the only one that bought alcohol, but I still really wanted to be a good Christian, and good Christians don't get drunk. And I made the joke once with her. I don't know if you know the book, If You Give a Mouse a Cookie, but it's a book about if you give a mouse a cookie, he's going to ask for a glass of milk, and he's going to ask for a napkin, and it just keeps escalating. And I made the joke with her once. I was like, man, if you give Hailey a beer, she's going to ask for another beer. I always had that. If I start drinking, I just want to keep drinking. And I thought that was normal because that's just has always been my experience with alcohol. Fast forward to moving to Seattle 9 years ago, and I found a therapist who is Christian but was not intent on keeping me Christian. So she really helped me start to untangle myself from this really toxic form of Christianity. And, subsequently my drinking started to escalate. So I started, as I started to feel more freedom, drinking felt like freedom to me, where I was like, I'm making this choice. And I started drinking every day. And it also really helped that social anxiety, or it felt like it did. And alcohol was how I drank every night. On the weekends, I drank during the day. And it's just so socially acceptable that I, was able to drink with a lot of people or like, you know, with a friend or two. But then I always knew that I was going to go home and get drunk because I didn't want anybody to like see my alcoholism. Where am I? Okay. Um, and you know, then fast forward to I was in a relationship and we were seeing a therapist together, and I told her, you know, I'm an alcoholic, and when I drink I get so angry and I often don't remember what I say. um, and I was so grateful because this therapist said, you know, I said I'm an alcoholic and I need to get sober, and she said, Hailey, you don't just get sober. Like, you first admit that you have a problem, and you're doing that now. Um, but after that, there's a preparation stage to getting sober. And I was so grateful that she said that, because that happened in 2020. And I was like, okay, like there are steps to life. It isn't an all or nothing, which nobody had ever told me before. So then fast forward to January of 2022, and I was in a shared housing situation, and my relationship with one of the people had really soured, and I was just really uncomfortable whenever I was home. And so actually my ex, who I'm still very good friends with, he said, hey, I'm going to be out of town for the weekend. Would you like to stay at my apartment just to be able to have a place to breathe? And he said, that'd be lovely. So I was so excited for this weekend because I was like, I'm going to work out, I'm going to meditate, I'm going to do all these things. And I just drank the entire weekend. So Friday night until Sunday night, when I was drunkenly walking over to the 7-Eleven to get a frozen pizza because I was like, I need to put something else in my body besides for alcohol. And I had the sense of like, this is just going to be my life forever. I'm going to get a place on my own. Nobody's going to be able to see my drinking, and I'm just going to drink all the time. And there was something that shifted in me, and I just said, I don't want to do this anymore. And, you know, I have a real funny relationship with higher power, God stuff. I think that will be an ongoing journey, but I know that that was not something that was just from myself, because there's no rhyme or reason as to why, like in that moment, I said, I don't want to do this anymore. But I said, I don't want to do this anymore. And because of that conversation with the therapist, I was like, okay, I'm in the preparation stages for getting sober. So a couple months later, I found a therapist, or I emailed 3 therapists. One didn't respond. One said, I don't have any room. And then one said, I do have some room. And we had a 20-minute consultation. And I said, you know, I have anxiety, I have depression, I have all these things that are wrong with me that I need help for, but I'm an alcoholic and I need to get sober. And she said, well, lucky for you, I've been helping people start their sobriety journey for 30 years. And I was like, oh my God. And she's wonderful. So she's really been a fantastic part of my sobriety. But in our first full meeting, she said, okay, Hailey, you ready to go to Alcoholics Anonymous? And I was like, I don't think you know, Judy, I think we need a couple more months. Like, I'm just not ready to go, you know? And she said, no, you're ready. Because I really wanted to keep drinking. Like, I was terrified to stop because alcohol had just been my crutch, my best friend. It's what I did when I was bored, when I celebrated. It's how I numbed out. I mean, alcohol, when I wasn't drinking, I was thinking about drinking. And when I was drinking, I just wanted to keep drinking. And so the idea of like, what do you do if you are not drinking terrified me. And I started going to AA, and I still kind of don't know how I got sober. That was kind of a blur. One of the things that was so helpful, obviously, was the community that happens in AA, because I have been so lonely my entire life. And this feeling of, I am desperate for friendship, and yet I sure don't know how to make friends, because I can tell you all the reasons why you wouldn't want to be friends with me, or all the reasons why I'm a sinful, blah, blah, blah. These are all my defects. And yet, hearing person after person share their story where it's like, oh my God, me too, has just felt like a breath of fresh air. And one of the things that was really, really helpful for me, I say in early sobriety, which was 10 months ago. But, you know, right when I started, was my therapist said, Hailey, you know, right now you're starting to get sober, and, it's like you're taking off in an airplane and it's gray outside and there's turbulence and you don't know if you're going to make it. But I know one day you will break through the clouds, you will see the sunshine, and life will get so much better. And I just remember crying and saying, Judy, I sure don't believe that for myself, but I believe you, because I know you've seen this over and over and over again. And also, one of the things that was, I mean, to backtrack a little bit, that was really frustrating when Judy told me I had to start going to AA was, she said, you have no idea how disconnected from yourself you are, because alcohol has disconnected you from yourself emotionally, spiritually, physically. And I didn't know that. And looking back now, it's like, man, I had no idea. And I still obviously have a lot to learn. And this is a program of progress, not perfection. But I didn't realize that. And so in these past 10 months of sobriety, one of the things I remember saying over and over and over again was in meetings, I was like, I just want to feel safe in my own body because I have not experienced what that has felt like. And I have a much better understanding of what it feels like now to be okay within my own skin. I grew up feeling like everybody else was in full color and I was in muted colors, or like everybody else had skin and bones and were actual people. And I was just this jellyfish that just could melt at any second. And that feels really nice. And, there have been times in this program, there's been one time in particular where I was like, I'm just ready to drink again. It was a couple months ago, and it just, I can be a really all or nothing person, and I'm still learning patience and to accept life on life's terms, which that'll be a forever process for me. And I just had a case of like, I just don't think this is worth it anymore. And I'm so grateful because the things that popped out in my mind were specifically 2 stories from women that had relapses. And one, they both explained how not only did they pick up exactly where they had left off in their alcoholism, but they were catapulted into a more intense version of their alcoholism than they even knew. And so I had in my mind, Hailey, if you drink again, you don't know if you're going to be able to make it back into these rooms, and you are going to be brought to a place you've never been before. And I also recognized I am still going to have to deal with the exact same stuff that I'm dealing with now if I make it back into these rooms. And I also had a buddy that day who knew I was having a really bad day, and he said, hey, I'm going to a meeting tonight if you want to go. And I said, I sure don't, but I knew that I needed to, so I went, and it was great. But yeah, so I just... I'm so grateful for the things that I hear in these rooms because they pop up in my mind and they pop up in my brain during the low moments. And then during the really high moments, I'm just so grateful to be sober. Like I wouldn't change my sobriety for anything, even during the times where sometimes it feels like it's not worth it, but I know that it is. I still have 3 minutes. Oh, great. I thought I was going to finish early. It was going to be right on time. But so because of that, I'm going to share with you a poem that I paced up and down in my apartment the first couple of days of my sobriety because it just felt like what I wanted my sobriety to be. It's called Oramus by Pedro Gotana. I'm going to close my eyes or else I'm going to get distracted. So let us pick up the stones over which we stumble, friends, and build altars. Let us listen to the sound of breath in our bodies. Let us listen to the sound of our own voices, of our own names, of our own fears. Let us name the harsh light and soft darkness that surrounds us. Let's claw ourselves out of the graves that we've dug. Let's lick the earth from our fingers. Let us look up and out and around. For this world is big and wide, wild, wonderful, and wicked. And our lives are murky, magnificent, malleable, and full of meaning. Oramus, let us pray. And that poem to me, I just repeated that over and over and over to myself because it felt like alcoholism and sobriety to me of, here I am in this grave that I've dug myself. And can I claw myself out of the grave that I've dug? And can I lick the earth from my fingers? Because sobriety just feels like such a chance to live. And I really want to live this life. If I only have one life to live, I want to live it to its fullest. And that means being present in the really hard moments and walking through them, not just drinking and, having to deal with all the same stuff over and over again. And I just love that poem and the idea of can alcoholism and sobriety, can it be a stone that then is turned into an altar that we all get to share and, move forward through in life. So I think that's all that I have to say.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks.